Hello everyone, we are the Watching Men, and in just a few hours we're on our way to go see Spider-Man Homecoming. This is going to be the 6th attempt at a Spider-Man film, which is not to say the others were losses, but this is another attempt. This is not a continuation of the last series we got, which was The Amazing Spider-Man 1 and 2. This is, I don't know, what is it's kind of a reboot. A hard reboot almost.
It is a hard reboot.
Because Sony is done with that Amazing Spider-Man series. This is now part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe thanks to some cooperation between Marvel and Sony.
To go way back, for anybody that doesn't know, Sony sold their rights to a lot of their characters to movie studios. Sony being the one that Spider-Man was sold to.
Right.
So they made the first 3 Spider-Mans with Sam Raimi. The first 2 were well received. The third one wasn't so well received.
Understandable.
And then they wanted to do another reboot. So they recast everybody and they went with the Amazing Spider-Man title.
Right.
The first one was okay. It was decent. The casting was pretty solid. And then they released The Amazing Spider-Man 2. They were thinking way too far ahead. The movie was not well received critically or commercially. Fans hated it.
I believe I actually went and saw that in theaters. We did. We saw it in theaters.
Yeah,
it was
a birthday movie.
Yeah, had I not been under the influence, I probably might have walked out of that movie.
It was pretty bad.
And that's what I want to talk about is the way that this is going to continuously now fit with the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
So he's going to be with Captain America and Iron Man and all the Avengers. And
he already was in Civil War. I mean, that was was almost like the test for Spider-Man. Like, what did they think? Did they think fans were going to see Spider-Man show up in Civil War and everyone was going to be like, oh, no, absolutely not.
I mean, you know this. I don't really care for his part in that movie.
Let's clarify why you don't care for it.
Why I don't care for that part in the movie is because that movie, in my opinion, is pretty dark. It deals with dark subject matter. It deals with terrorism. And, people die in that movie. Like, there's a very hard line drawn in the sand, so to speak, between the heroes. I just don't think that his comic relief fit that movie. I just don't think when you can have a wisecracking guy when you've got Thanos coming down, threatening to destroy the entire universe. Like, it's too much at stake. I don't think that's the time for comedy. That's just me, though.
In your opinion, what would just ruin this movie?
Well, that's a pretty simple question, really. Like, if they focus too much on world building, if they're trying to get ahead of themselves, they're working 6 movies ahead, like The Amazing Spider-Man 2 did. That would ruin this movie for me just the way that movie did. Or if we have a weak villain, like Venom from Spider-Man 3.
Because we've had so many Spider-Man movies before this one, I don't want them to hit the ball so far into left field that we miss the point of Spider-Man. I don't want a little kid Spider-Man. I don't want the Spider-Man that was made for Facebook. I don't want to go to a movie that was designed for millennial memers, Like, I don't want Spider-Man the meme. I don't want Meme Man 2000 the movie. It's inevitable that there's going to be at least one hot meme in there. There's going to be a hot meme dropped at some point. We're going to get, a reference to something. I'm calling it now. One meme in this movie at least. One hot meme is happening in this movie.
Okay. All right. Well, I hope to God you're wrong. From what little I know about the movie, he's Peter Parker. He's in high school. He's got the same kind of problems that he's always had, except the difference is now we've got Tony Stark as kind of like the surrogate father figure. He's also kind of helping him out with the suit and stuff like that, giving him advice, which that's something they've never done before. And I believe it or not, I actually really like that. Like, that's nothing like the comic book. That never happened in the comic book, but that's okay. I'm fine with that.
I have no problem with Tony Stark, Iron Man showing up in any Marvel movies. That is hands down my favorite character out of this entire Marvel Cinematic Universe. I'm not gonna kick anyone in the face for having him show up, but I'm really hoping that he's not just there to make sure that they make enough money, because without him, this movie didn't happen.
The costume looks really good, I think, and that's something that you and I have talked about many times.
The costume
looks great.
Yeah.
One of the things that they've done this time that they have never done before is they've found a way to make his eyes
have
the
moving eyes
emotion,
show expression.
And that's a big part of the comic book.
And I'm glad that we're able to break away from that. Everything has to be so hard set in reality now. Like, after Doctor Strange, reality flew out the window for Marvel. Because now anything's on the table. There's magic. But yeah, with the eyes moving, I'm glad that we are able to start accepting things like these are comic book movies. Spider-Man is allowed to express what he's feeling through mechanical eyes or whatever explanation they have. I want this movie to be good. And like I said, it will fit a formula that I'm sure makes it successful.
I think they've got a lot of good actors. You've got Tony Stark, Robert Downey Jr. You've got Michael Keaton. It's Michael Keaton.
It is Michael Keaton.
He's gonna own. So we've got those two guys. Tom Holland, I think, is a great cast for Peter Parker and Spider-Man.
He seems like he's got being Peter Parker and being Spider-Man pretty much down.
Yeah,
he's not too handsome, but he's not too shitting all over himself.
And I think that's just an easy progression because you can always look back at what somebody else did and you can improve on it. Yeah, I'm pretty excited though going into this. I like the fact that he's in the Marvel Cinematic Universe now. I think they've made a lot of good choices. I think bringing Robert Downey Jr. in to kind of mentor him is the right thing to do. So yeah, I'm pretty stoked to see this movie. Plus, awesome. I love this new costume. I love the fact that his eyes can actually show emotion now. That's a big thing from the comics. So yeah, I'm pretty stoked about this.
I think that's all that's really left to do is we're gonna go see the movie. Welcome back, everyone. We've returned now from seeing Spider-Man Homecoming, and hopefully you have too. John, why don't we open it up with you first? It's so easy to go into something and just start ripping it apart. Let's try and bring out some positive light on this movie. What did you enjoy about Spider-Man Homecoming, which we just saw?
Well, what I enjoyed most was Michael Keaton. His performance as the Vulture, I thought was amazing. They had a really interesting way in introducing his character and his backstory into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I thought Tom Holland did a great job as Peter Parker and Spider-Man. In my opinion, he's probably the best actor that there's been in that role.
This Peter Parker made me believe that we were watching Peter Parker in high school.
That's exactly what I was going to say. They did a really good job with making you believe that he was a 15-year-old. A lot of his mannerisms and actions, like the things that he did in the film, they were things that a 15-year-old kid would do.
Yeah, like the extensive internet pornography masturbation. It did go on a little too long. It touched every part. Yes, we are watching a 15-year-old man.
To the folks at home, that is a blatant lie. That is not in this movie.
This was not the Spider-Man for our generation.
No, it definitely wasn't. And I don't even think they made this movie for Spider-Man fans. I think they made this movie to fit into the MCU and to show people how politically correct they can be.
I don't have kids, but I found myself more often than not relating to Iron Man's cameos where he has to keep coming in and telling Peter Parker to stop, slow down, be a kid, you're not an adult yet. Take it easy, you're gonna get hurt, you're gonna hurt other people. And I just remember thinking the whole time, this is what happens when you're after 30. You stop relating with the younger, relatable characters. Now I'm relating with old man Tony Stark, and I want the kids off my goddamn lawn.
Tony Stark, Robert Downey Jr. as the surrogate father figure in this movie was really great. It wasn't overdone. And you're right, he had to step in several times and be just slow it down a notch, you're not an Avenger yet. This is kind of a trial run. I made you the suit. You kind of got to prove yourself. There's
a lot of relatability between Spider-Man and Iron Man in these first introductory movies because Tony Stark in the original Iron Man was coming from a place of pompousness and arrogance.
He was very cavalier.
He was too big for his britches kind of thing, yeah. And he got his ass handed to him, and because of that it turned him into the hero, and he very much so was reflecting those same experiences onto Peter Parker.
Right.
I hope this isn't a passing of the torch where we're going to have to start saying goodbye to some of our established characters. So the word I keep landing on with this movie, it's not good, it's not bad, it's safe. It's a safe movie. I don't know if your opinion maybe differed a little from mine, but
I do agree with that. I think the reason that it was a safe movie was because of all the problems that we talked about before with, Sony kind of running the franchise into the ground. I think they had to kind of play it very safe. It's like there's a line in the movie where Michael Keaton tells Peter Parker's character, you play it close to the chest. That's what they did with this movie.
What I did appreciate is that they didn't have to beat you over the head with who Spider-Man was. We were given a very quick, maybe, 3-4 lines of dialogue simply explaining that he was bitten by a radioactive spider. They moved on from the subject, never went back. We get quick explanations of the suit that he's using, how it works, what his web functions are, things like that. Everything that needed to be explained it treated the audience like they already knew who Spider-Man was, which for me, I do appreciate. Now, if you somehow don't know who Spider-Man is going into this, you may feel a little lost, but after 5 Spider-Man movies, I'm glad we didn't get another origin story.
So they took a lot of liberties with the side characters in this movie. They changed the race of quite a few characters, and even changed like who the characters are. The perfect example is Flash Thompson, except they don't say Thompson, they just call him Flash.
Right.
And then MJ, Mary Jane Watson, except in the movie her name is Michelle. She's a character that's very much in the background through the whole movie. And they made her like very quiet and reserved, the girl that's not paid attention to at all. The problem in Spider-Man Homecoming is the way that they wrote the character, this Michelle character, she's nothing like Mary Jane from the comic book. Nothing. So you would have no clue that she was supposed to be Mary Jane Watson until that scene where they're nominating a new head president of their debate group. And somebody says, I nominate Michelle. And the teacher says, yeah, and then she goes, people call me MJ. And that was probably the most cringeworthy moment in a movie that I can remember. I even heard people groan when they did that.
What did I say yesterday? I was going in with very high hopes, but very realistic expectations, and I think I nailed that. I think I got that right on the money with what to expect. There's no change in my opinion. It didn't bring anything new to the table, and all the oh look, it's these characters, but now they're all different. I was just like, well, cool. What did they do in the movie? They did nothing. And that whole end scene was kind of a mess on film. I don't know if it was happening too fast, but basically what's happening is Spider-Man and the Vulture are fighting on a crashing invisible plane. It should have been filmed in slow motion almost, because you couldn't tell what was happening. Right. Seriously, for 15 minutes during that last fight scene, I didn't know who was winning. I didn't know if Vulture or Spider-Man was, and because of that, I didn't feel a draw towards Spider-Man. I'm like, he could be doing good, he could be getting his ass kicked, but I don't know. Fuck it, let's go into that. Which action sequence in this movie was supposed to be the big one? Because there was 3 big action sequences. There's the Washington Monument, the ferry, and the big fight at the end.
There's a fight between him, a small fight between Spider-Man and the Vulture in the beginning of the movie. Then there's the ferry sequence where Iron Man has to show up and kind of save his butt. That's a big action set piece, because there's that scene from the trailer where he's, holding it together.
Right.
There's that, and then there's the scene at the very end with the plane.
Yeah.
And the final fight with Vulture.
There was a scene where the ferry scene, and it's in the trailer, so you're not, everyone's already seen it at this point, but the ferry is broken in half, and Spider-Man is web-shotting every part of it that he can, and he ends up holding it together with his own body, which is pretty much a recreation of him stopping the train from Spider-Man 2.
It is a little bit.
But that seems to be this very iconic Spider-Man Jesus holding the web, sacrificing his body to save the people kind of thing. And I'm just wondering if that's
I don't know if I go that far. They've done that a lot with Superman.
Maybe there was more to the movie that was supposed to excite us and we just didn't take that away. Maybe it's our fault for not being thrilled by the movie.
I don't think so. I really don't think so. Another thing that really bothered me in the opening of the movie is, Peter Parker was making a video, and it's very distracting, and I think it takes away from the overall story. Like he's making a video like he's going to put on YouTube. He's making a video, like a selfie video of himself going on the trip that happened in Civil War, like, going to Germany, I guess they were in, and getting the suit, and then like sitting next to Tony Stark, and like that felt very out of place. Like that felt like I think I know what they were going for. Like they were going for, this is something a 15-year-old kid would do. That took me out of the movie like big time. And they had me, like they had my interest when they introduced, how the Vulture was in the MCU. Like he was part of a cleanup crew that had been hired to clean up the alien invasion that happened in Avengers, and then this company comes in and says, you guys have to leave, you've been replaced, and like he put all of his money and his time into this.
Yeah.
So he was going to be ruined, and that's the reason that he becomes the Vulture.
I liked the Vulture in it. I thought he was a good, intimidating enemy. Everything from the costume to Michael Keaton playing that role was great. Except for I found a severe lack of motivation in his actions. Like, I get it. Like, you got screwed out of your job by Tony Stark's company cleaning up alien tech. That's what you did. But that seems like a really distant jump from like, oh, I clean up alien tech after a war zone thing took place to I'm the fucking Vulture.
It didn't to me, and it didn't to me.
But
it wasn't lost.
They didn't
They did
show the.
They did though.
He was just the bad guy. He was bad guy man.
No,
That's what he. No, he was
not.
bad guy
He was
man, and
not.
he was motivated by simply doing evil things to good people.
No, he was.
That
not
was his
motivated by
motivation.
that was not his motivation. His motivation was his family. That was his. So, would you recommend this movie, Jeff?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd recommend it. It's a Marvel movie. I recommend pretty much all Marvel movies because they're great entertainment. If you go into this movie expecting a very in-depth story about a boy, you know, who is coming to be a man, you're going to leave disappointed because it's not. It's a fun summer action movie and it accomplishes all of those very basic goals. I liked it. I didn't think it was exciting. I didn't feel any danger for the character, and I'll use that word one more time. This was a safe movie, but maybe it had to be safe. We're reintroducing Spider-Man to Marvel, so yeah, it's safe, but it's fun. Go see it. You?
I somewhat agree. I did feel danger for the character in many cases, especially in the Washington Monument sequence. I felt danger for the people that he was trying to save. Towards the end, I felt danger. But I would also recommend it. There again, you know, it's a good movie. It's not a great movie. I don't think it's a good or a great MCU movie. But go see it. It's a nice, fun summer blockbuster. You'll probably enjoy it one way or the other. So that's our review of Spider-Man Homecoming.
And thank you for watching.
And we will see you next time.